Okay, let's dive in.
Oh,
Today, we're unpacking how organizations um, actually help you build and navigate your career inside the company.
right.
You sent us a stack of sources, quite a bit here. Articles, research, all outlining the concepts, the specific ways companies try to support career growth, and yeah, the really crucial ethical lines involved.
That's right. And our mission really is to cut through some of the jargon, give you a clear picture of what a modern organizational career development ecosystem actually looks like.
Okay,
We'll dig into the practices they use, how they help you learn, move, plan, and critically, those ethical considerations, they're just non-negotiable.
absolutely.
We want you to walk away understanding not just what's possible, maybe, but what's right, and how it all impacts your professional path.
Let's start with that idea then, the ecosystem. The sources use that term quite a bit. Why call it that? Sounds a bit biological.
Yeah. Well, think of it like a living network. It's not just HR doing things to employees, right? The sources describe it as this interconnected system. The organization, individual employees, we're all constantly interacting, influencing each other.
And it's all happening within the wider market.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Shaped by the larger tech-driven market we all operate in now.
So it's dynamic, always changing,
Exactly. And it's become fundamental, not just optional for organizations to attract talent, keep talent today.
which is tough.
It is. Especially in this fast-moving market, having a robust development ecosystem is just essential. It's key for sustainable talent management, staying competitive.
This feels like such a big shift from, I don't know, maybe our parents' generation, where you might join a company and just follow a set path for 30 years.
Oh, it's fundamentally different.
Yeah.
The sources really highlight that the traditional organization-centered career, well, it's largely gone.
Really?
Yeah. Lifelong employment in one place, those predictable upward steps, much less common. Employees now have far greater agency.
So it's more on us.
It is. You are, and you kind of need to be, more self-directed in managing your own career journey. You're actively seeking mobility up, down, sideways, maybe even outside the company.
And technology has just turbocharged that, hasn't it?
Totally. Yeah, it enables that mobility, creates completely new types of work, changes how we access opportunities, how we learn.
And who's really pushing this change? The sources mention.
Well, they point squarely at millennials and Gen Z. They form the core, the bulk of today's workforce.
Right, the largest groups now. So what do they expect from this ecosystem? Is it different?
It is. They expect flexibility, for sure, continuous learning sort of baked into their work life, and crucially, tech-driven career resources that are easy to find and use.
Makes sense.
And what really stood out in the sources, especially looking at some stats around Gen Z, is this idea that in the digital economy, it's skills, not just job titles, that define success and open doors.
That's a really key nugget right there, skills over titles. So, okay, translating that, what does a tangible, robust ecosystem look like to this modern workforce? What do they actually want to see?
Well, based on the sources, it means having documented policies, clear roadmaps, not just vague promises.
So clarity.
Clarity. And it's about the technology, those internal portals or apps they need to be genuinely functional, useful for discovering internal jobs, understanding different roles, accessing assessments, finding support.
So the tech has to actually work and help you see the possibilities inside.
Yes. And they value having access to coaches, maybe formal career assessments, and importantly, regular formal feedback from managers that specifically talks about career goals.
Not just performance, but career path.
Exactly. They also want to see that their managers are actually trained in how to support career growth. And of course, that there are plenty of opportunities for ongoing education, training, development things that help them plan and navigate their careers.
It really sounds like a multi-layered support structure. And you mentioned technology.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps adding new layers, doesn't it? The sources touch on things like AI maybe becoming part of coaching.
Yeah, AI coaching, potential uses of blockchain for verified skills, maybe AI helping identify future reskilling needs.
Yeah.
It's evolving fast.
So what's the big picture benefit here if a company invests in all this?
Well, the sources are pretty clear. It's good for everyone involved. For employees like you, it means more control over your career path, right? improved employability, even if you do move on eventually, and often better work-life balance because flexibility becomes part of that whole conversation.
And for the organization itself, what's in it for them?
Better talent retention, definitely. More engaged employees. Higher productivity because people can see a future and feel the company's investing in them.
Makes sense.
And the sources make a really strong point that investing in this ecosystem also builds resiliency. For the company, sure, but also for the individual. Well, providing planning tools, coaching, education, reskilling options, promoting alternative growth paths, it helps employees navigate change internally. And interestingly, it can even inspire employees to build external safety nets too, like financial planning or building social support networks, because they feel more secure about their internal growth potential.
That's an interesting side effect.
Mm.
Okay, so that covers the why and the basic structure of this ecosystem. How does it actually function day to day? The sources break down the specific support practices into categories, right?
They do. They organize them into, let's see, informational, competency development, relational, and career-related resource building practices. Quite a few categories.
Okay, let's start with informational. This sounds like it's about providing clarity, data, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Onboarding is the classic first step. Getting new hires smoothly integrated. It's really critical because the sources show it directly impacts how quickly someone becomes productive, engaged, successful, really.
And that could be handbooks, online stuff.
Yeah, formal sessions, digital programs, handbooks guiding you through those first crucial weeks or months.
And assessment and development centers. The sources mention these too. What are they exactly?
Okay, so these typically use simulations, exercises, ways to see how people perform in realistic situations. Assessment centers often focus on evaluating current performance or strengths, maybe for selection or promotion.
Right.
Development centers are more about diagnosing future training needs, identifying potential for growth. The key insight here is they give a deeper look than just an interview or a standard performance review. They offer valuable self-awareness for you, the individual, and better data for the company's planning.
And the sources also list performance appraisals here, specifically mentioning 360-degree feedback.
Yes, getting feedback from multiple angles, peers, your manager, maybe people who report to you, even clients sometimes. The value is that well-rounded view, right? A single manager might miss things.
Internal job postings seem pretty basic, but they're listed too.
Simple, but vital. Just publishing vacancies internally clearly signals that the company prefers to promote from within. That's a big motivator for people.
Yeah, it shows there's a path.
Exactly. Could be on an intranet, emails, whatever. And related to that, just having general web-based information, booklets, FAQs about career topics, it frees up managers from answering every single basic question.
Okay, what about retirement preparation programs? They're included under informational. Seems like an endpoint.
Yeah, it might seem like an odd fit at first, but it's providing crucial information for a major life transition. These programs help employees prepare financially, legally, but also psychologically.
Like dealing with the change.
Exactly. Addressing that potential sense of identity loss when you stop working. The sources show the support really improves well-being during what can be a pretty significant life change.
Okay, that makes sense. Moving on then to competency development practices. This sounds like where the actual skills and experience get built.
Spot on. Formal education, training, and development is the obvious one here. Structured programs, workshops, maybe even formal qualifications.
Like degrees or certifications.
Could be. The sources point out this isn't just about your individual skills. It's strategic for the company, too. Addressing scarce skills, building overall workforce capability. Sometimes it's linked to national frameworks or funding.
Second assignments and exchanges sound interesting. Temporary assignments, maybe elsewhere in the company or even outside it.
Yeah, these can be powerful. The advantage here is acceleration. Dropping someone into a totally new role or environment, even temporarily, rapidly builds new skills, adaptability. It can be fantastic for developing leadership potential.
Sort of learning by fire, but in a good way?
Kind of, yeah. Then the sources mention redeployments and outplacement programs.
Right, what's the difference there?
Redeployment is about supporting internal transitions, usually during restructuring, helping people find new roles within the company. Outplacement is support for those exiting the company, helping them transition externally, resume help, job search coaching, that kind of thing.
So helping people land softly, either way.
That's the goal. Minimize disruption, support people through difficult changes.
Job crafting is another one lifted. This sounds quite employee-driven.
It absolutely is. The sources describe this as employees proactively initiating changes to their own job, maybe tweaking tasks, changing relationships at work, or even just reframing how they think about their job, all within certain boundaries, of course.
Why is that important?
The insight is it can dramatically increase engagement and satisfaction because people are actively shaping their work to better align with their own strengths, values, interests. It improves that person job fit.
So it's not waiting for HR or your manager to fix things. It's taking some initiative yourself.
Precisely. Then there's on-the-job learning.
The classic approach, right?
Learning by doing. Absolutely fundamental. Job rotation, shadowing someone, taking on stretch assignments that push you a bit. The advantage is huge. Skills and knowledge are immediately relevant, applied directly to the work you need to do.
Okay. The sources also talk about competency-based career ladders. What does that mean?
This is really about transparency and progression.
Yeah.
Instead of just time served, it defines roles and the steps between them based on specific, measurable competencies, skills, knowledge, behaviors.
So you know exactly what you need to demonstrate to move up.
Exactly. It creates a much clearer path for improvement and directly links your individual growth to what the business actually needs.
And lateral moves.
Yeah.
Moving sideways.
Yeah, job transitions at the same sort of hierarchy level. The sources note this is really crucial, especially when upward mobility might be limited, maybe the pyramid narrows.
Right.
Lateral moves still offer growth. They build cross-functional experience, broaden your perspective, and keep people engaged by offering new challenges without necessarily needing a promotion.
What about this dual ladder concept?
Ah, yes. This addresses a common issue. How do you provide upward mobility and recognition for highly skilled technical or professional staff who don't want to go into management?
Like a top engineer or scientist.
Exactly. A dual ladder creates a separate parallel track for advancement. It ensures these specialists can grow, be rewarded, get seniority, without being forced onto a managerial path that maybe doesn't suit their skills or interests.
That seems smart. Career pathing sounds pretty central to this whole category.
It really ties a lot of it together. It's the process of helping employees map out potential progression paths within the organization, identifying the skills needed for future roles, figuring out the development steps to get there.
Are there tools for this?
Often, yes. Things like career progression charts, individual development plans, IDPs, sometimes supported by HR software platforms. It's all about aligning your aspirations with the organization's needs.
The sources mention something called customized career progression using models like MCC. What's MCC?
Right. MCC stands for pace, workload, location schedule, and role. It's basically a framework for thinking about how career paths can be adjusted more flexibly
How so?
to fit individual needs or different life stages. Maybe you need to slow down the pace for a while, adjust your workload, change location, or tweak your role. The insight here is that career growth doesn't have to be this one rigid, upward trajectory at a fixed speed.
So it can flex.
It can be customized. This supports work-life balance without necessarily sacrificing advancement long-term. It recognizes people have different needs at different times, which can really boost retention.
Succession planning is also listed under development. Feels a bit more top-down.
It often is, but it's definitely a development practice. It's about identifying and actively preparing employees for key future leadership or critical roles. It's vital for organizational continuity, making sure the company has the right talent ready when needed, proactive talent development.
Special programs targeting specific groups.
Yeah, things like programs specifically for high-potential individuals, leadership development programs, initiatives for interns, or perhaps programs supporting designated equity groups.
Why have separate programs?
Well, they're about addressing specific talent pools or needs, ensuring a diverse future workforce, promoting inclusion, addressing specific skill gaps, or accelerating development for certain groups.
And finally, in this category, career development support for vulnerable workers.
This is an important one the sources highlight, focusing on inclusion for groups like maybe lower-skilled employees, part-time workers, or individuals with disabilities who might otherwise get overlooked.
What kind of support?
It could be tailored training, specific mentorship, flexible work arrangements, sometimes called ideals or idiosyncratic deals. The aim is to enhance their employability, performance, and well-being, reduce discrimination, and foster genuine long-term inclusion and productivity.
Okay, that's comprehensive list for building competencies. Next up, relational practices. This sounds like it's about people and interactions.
Exactly. Mentoring and executive coaching are the big ones here.
What's the difference?
Mentoring is typically an experienced employee guiding a less experienced one, the mentee. It's often broader, focusing on general career wisdom, navigating the organization's culture, building networks, sharing knowledge.
And coaching.
Executive coaching is usually for more senior staff, often with an external coach. It tends to be more focused on specific skill gaps, enhancing leadership effectiveness, improving self-awareness, maybe tackling specific performance challenges.
What's the core advantage of these relationships then?
Well, mentoring builds trust, helps with satisfaction, advancement, knowledge transfer, and definitely retention, feeling supported makes a difference.
Right.
Coaching helps leaders address specific issues, become more effective, and can even improve their work-life balance by helping them manage demands better. The sources even get quite specific, detailing steps for effective mentor-mentee communication and planning, active listening, clear goals.
Career advice from trained advisors also fits here.
Yes, getting that objective guidance. Advisors can help you clarify goals, explore different paths or options, provide information on steps or resources needed. It just brings clarity and direction.
And career conversations with managers. This seems absolutely fundamental.
Oh, vital. The sources really emphasize this. Regular, meaningful, two-way conversations. Not just the annual review, but ongoing dialogue between you and your direct manager about your career goals, your development needs, how your aspirations fit with the team and the company's future.
What does that achieve?
It fosters a culture where growth is discussed openly, it aligns expectations, ensures you feel supported, and significantly boosts engagement and retention. It's huge.
Okay, the final category the sources mentioned is career-related resource building. What falls under this?
Career counseling is one aspect. This involves trained counselors providing support to help employees navigate specific career challenges, make difficult decisions, maybe address well-being issues related to work. It can be more therapeutic or problem-solving focused than general advice.
Then there's career adaptability and transition coaching. Sounds future-focused.
It is. This is about equipping employees with the skills and mindset to manage their own careers effectively over the long term.
Oh.
By fostering agility, resilience, self-management skills, a mindset of lifelong learning. Think workshops, online classes, maybe tools like e-portfolios. It helps people learn how to assess their skills, identify opportunities, and navigate the inevitable changes throughout their working life. Become more self-sufficient.
Career crafting is listed again here. How is it different from job crafting we discussed earlier?
Good question. Job crafting was about changing your current job. Career crafting, as described here in the sources, is broader. It's about you actively shaping your entire career trajectory over time.
So, longer term.
Yeah, aligning it with your evolving personal values, motivations, life goals. It's about enhancing long-term meaningfulness, engagement, and employability by proactively steering your path.
And general career planning support workshops.
These are often shorter, more focused sessions. Maybe on specific aspects of career management, how to use the company's internal career portal effectively, how to build a professional network, strategies for navigating a specific type of transition, practical tools for proactive management.
Wow, okay. That's a lot of different practices.
It is. And putting it all together, the sources are really clear. These diverse practices, when they're integrated well, support both objective career success, the measurable stuff like promotions, salary increases, getting the role you want, and subjective success, that feeling of satisfaction, being engaged, having a sense of well-being and fulfillment in your work life. Both matter.
Okay, this all sounds like a really positive, potentially powerful set of support structures. But the sources make it very, very clear. This only works if there's a crucial layer underpinning everything.
Ethics. Absolutely. This isn't just a nice-to-have philosophy. It's fundamental. It's about building trust, making these practices effective, and, frankly, fair. The sources outline some key ethical principles that everyone involved, managers, HR, even employees themselves, really need to adhere to.
What are some of the standout principles mentioned? What should people look out for?
Well, guarding employee privacy is paramount. Just fundamental respect for personal information.
Okay.
Guaranteeing confidentiality, especially for sensitive data shared during coaching or assessments. Obtaining informed consent before you ask employees to participate in assessments or share certain data for development planning. They need to know what they're signing up for.
And respecting their right to know.
Exactly. Respecting the employee's right to know what information is being collected about their career potential or interests, why it's being collected, and how it will actually be used. No secrets.
Transparency is absolutely key then.
Totally. Also, things like imposing reasonable time limits on how long data is kept, using the most valid and reliable assessment procedures available, not just grabbing any old online test.
Right. Making sure the tools are sound.
And treating employees with respect and consideration throughout any career development process. A really big one is not maintaining secret files. Employees should be fully informed about what career-related information is stored about them, its purpose, how it's used, how long it's kept.
And they should have the right to actually see that information and fix it if it's wrong.
Crucial for accuracy and trust. Periodically allowing employees to inspect and update their stored information, and naturally avoiding any fraudulent, secretive, or unfair ways of collecting data, collecting it directly from the individual whenever that's possible.
The sources give some scenarios that really bring these principles or the violation of them to life, like the development by surprise example.
Yeah, that scenario. It involves using results from supposedly voluntary aptitude tests, results the employee never saw, mind you, and using them behind the scenes for succession planning without the employee's knowledge or consent. That just clearly violates informed consent and the right to know how your data is being used for decisions impacting your future.
Or the just checking in one, where a manager takes informal notes from conversations, maybe about career interests,
Right.
and these notes somehow end up forming career interest profiles
Yeah.
used by HR, but the employee never sees them, doesn't know they exist, can't correct them if they're wrong or outdated.
That raises huge privacy flags, doesn't it? It violates the right to know what information is kept on you, the right to inspect and update it. And using potentially outdated or inaccurate info also questions the validity of any decisions based on it.
And that last example, the assessment shortcut.
That's where maybe an unvalidated tool, perhaps a free online assessment, is used. The company doesn't explain its basis, doesn't check if it's actually accurate or reliable.
But they use the results anyway.
Yeah, it uses the results to potentially deny employees opportunities, all without a transparent process or any way for the employee to understand or appeal. That clearly goes against using valid procedures and denies the employee the right to understand how decisions affecting their career are being made.
These examples really drive home that the how matters just as much as the what when it comes to career support.
Yeah.
It really is about building trust and respecting the individual.
Exactly. And while a spotlight is often rightly on the organization's ethical duties, the sources do also briefly mention that employees have ethical responsibilities too within this ecosystem.
Like what?
Things like, understanding and following company policies, fulfilling your own role responsibilities competently, maintaining your skills, contributing productively. It's a two-way street to some extent.
Okay. So bringing this all back to you, the listener, how should you think about all of this complex information?
Well, what this deep dive really shows, I think, is that a well-designed, genuinely ethical, organizational career development ecosystem, one that uses these diverse practices, thoughtfully creates this really powerful space for mutual growth for you and the company.
It's definitely not just about climbing some predefined ladder anymore, is it?
Not at all. It's much more about proactively building your skills, becoming adaptable, finding meaningful ways to align your personal growth goals with what the organization needs, but doing it all within a framework that fundamentally respects your privacy and your rights.
It sounds like a partnership, really,
Yeah.
enabled by all these practices we've discussed.
But only truly effective when that trust, those ethical principles are right there at the core.
Right. So here's a final thought then for you to consider as you look at your own professional journey. Given this landscape we've described where you, the employee, have increasing agency and skills are just paramount, how can you become a more active participant in your organization's career development ecosystem? Beyond just waiting for opportunities to come to you, how can you maybe leverage the practices that are available, ensure you understand what's being offered, and maybe feel empowered to ask the important questions about the ethical side of things, so you can truly take the reins and shape your own path forward?